Have you ever felt a quiet voice inside you whispering you are more, even when the world tried to convince you otherwise? Have you ever stood at the edge of your own fear, trembling, yet knowing deep down that if you took one step forward, your life would never be the same? This is not a fairy tale, this is my truth. There was a time when I waited for permission to dream, for validation to breathe freely, for someone else to believe in me before I dared to believe in myself, and every day I did that, I betrayed my own soul. I was taught to be careful, to be silent, to shrink my fire so it wouldn't scare anyone, but inside me lived a storm of ideas, pain, courage, and unanswered prayers. I doubted myself so deeply that I mistook my fear for reality and my hesitation for wisdom, until one day exhaustion became my awakening. I realized that the biggest miracle I was waiting for was not coming from the outside, it was waiting to be unleashed from within me. The moment I chose to trust myself, even with shaking hands and a heart full of scars, something shifted. I stopped asking, "What if I fail?" and started asking, "What if I rise?" Trusting myself didn't mean I had all the answers, it meant I trusted my ability to figure them out, to fall and stand again, to bleed and still move forward with grace. I began to listen to my intuition like it was sacred scripture, honoring my instincts instead of silencing them, and suddenly doors opened where walls once stood. Opportunities found me when I stopped chasing approval, strength wrapped around me when I stopped apologizing for my ambition, and courage became my companion the day I stopped doubting my worth. I learned that when a woman trusts herself, she becomes unstoppable, because her power is no longer borrowed, it is owned. Miracles don't always arrive as loud celebrations. Sometimes they arrive as quiet decisions, as the courage to say no, as the bravery to choose yourself on days no one claps for you. My journey didn't change overnight, but I changed, and that changed everything, because the world responds differently to a woman who knows who she is and refuses to abandon herself ever again. As I continued trusting myself, I discovered that confidence is not loud, it is rooted, and once it takes hold, nothing can uproot it. I stopped negotiating with my limits and started expanding them, realizing that every fear I faced was just a doorway to a stronger version of me. I learned that trusting myself meant honoring my boundaries, walking away from what drained me, and choosing paths that aligned with my soul even when they scared me. There were days when the road felt lonely, when doubt tried to return like an old habit, but I reminded myself that loneliness is better than living disconnected from who you truly are. Every time I chose myself, life met me halfway, clarity replaced confusion, resilience replaced fear, and my voice grew steady and unbreakable. I watched my dreams take shape not because I waited for perfect timing, but because I trusted my imperfect courage. The miracle was not that everything became easy, the miracle was that I became powerful enough to handle anything. I realized that a woman who trusts herself does not chase miracles, she creates them through her choices, her faith, and her refusal to settle. I became the woman I once prayed to become, not by changing the world first, but by believing in myself when no one else did, and that belief became the spark that set my entire life on fire. Trusting myself didn't just change my mindset, it rewrote my destiny, because once I stopped doubting my inner voice, I started hearing it clearly guide me toward the life I was meant to live. I understood that self-trust is not arrogance, it is alignment, it is waking up every day and choosing courage over comfort, truth over approval, purpose over fear. I began to see how every setback was shaping me, how every rejection was redirecting me, how every tear carried a lesson that was strengthening my spine and sharpening my vision. I no longer begged life to be gentle with me, I asked it to make me strong, and strength answered. I learned to stand alone without feeling lonely, to speak my truth without trembling, to dream without shrinking those dreams to fit into someone else's expectations. When I trusted myself, I stopped waiting to be chosen and became the one who chose, my time, my energy, my worth. The world tested me, tried to remind me of who I used to be, but I refused to return to a version of myself that doubted her power. Every bold step I took echoed back as confidence, every risk rewarded me with growth, and every moment of self-belief became a miracle unfolding in real time. I realized that a woman who trusts herself becomes a force, not because she never falls, but because she never stays down, because she knows her value is not negotiable and her dreams are not optional. This is the kind of faith that moves mountains, the kind of belief that turns wounds into wisdom and fear into fuel, and once a woman unlocks it, nothing can stop her from becoming everything she was born to be. There came a moment when I understood that trusting myself was the bravest rebellion I could ever commit, because the world had trained me to doubt my instincts and second-guess my desires, yet my soul never stopped knowing the truth. I learned that self-trust is built in the quiet moments, when no one is watching, when you choose discipline over distraction, healing over hiding, growth over comfort. I began to treat my dreams with reverence, protecting them from noise, comparison, and disbelief, and in doing so, I protected myself. I stopped explaining my vision to people who could not see it, and that silence became my strength. Every time I honored my intuition, life rewarded me with clarity, peace, and an unshakable sense of direction, as if the universe itself conspired in my favor the moment I decided to stand firmly in who I am. I discovered that miracles are not random. They are responses to courage, consistency, and self-belief, and the more I trusted myself, the more aligned everything became. I no longer feared losing people, opportunities, or comfort, because I knew losing myself would be the greatest loss of all. I learned to forgive my past versions, to thank them for surviving, and to step boldly into the woman they were preparing me to become. This journey demanded everything from me, my patience, my faith, my resilience, but it also gave me everything in return: strength, clarity, purpose, and power. When a woman trusts herself, she stops asking the world who she is, she decides, and in that decision, miracles are born, lives are transformed, and destiny finally answers her call. Today, when I look back at the woman I used to be, I don't feel regret, I feel reverence, because she survived seasons that tried to silence her spirit and still found the courage to rise. Trusting myself taught me that power is not something you are given, it is something you remember, something that awakens the moment you stop abandoning your own truth. I learned that self-trust is choosing yourself even when it's uncomfortable, even when it costs you familiarity, even when the path ahead is uncertain and your heart is pounding with fear and hope at the same time. There were moments when everything in me wanted to retreat, to play small, to return to what was familiar, but I stood my ground, because I finally understood that comfort never creates miracles, courage does. Each time I honored my intuition, I felt lighter, freer, more alive, as if layers of doubt were falling away and revealing the woman I was always meant to be. I stopped measuring my worth by outcomes and started valuing my effort, my growth, my resilience, and that shift changed everything. I realized that when a woman trusts herself, she becomes magnetic, not because she seeks attention, but because she walks in truth, and truth is powerful. My life didn't become perfect, but it became authentic, and authenticity is the greatest miracle of all. I now move with intention, speak with conviction, and dream without permission, knowing that whatever lies ahead, I have myself, and that is more than enough. When a woman trusts herself, she does not wait for miracles to save her, she becomes the miracle, breathing life into her dreams, rewriting her story with courage, and proving to the world, and to herself, that belief is the beginning of everything. To every woman listening to my story, this is my truth poured into advice: trust yourself even before the evidence appears, because faith always walks ahead of proof. Stop shrinking your voice to keep others comfortable. The world doesn't need a quieter you, it needs a braver you. Listen to your intuition like it is your compass, because it has survived everything you have survived and still knows the way forward. Choose yourself daily, in small decisions and big leaps, in what you tolerate, what you chase, and what you let go of. Do not wait until you feel ready. Confidence is built in action, not in waiting. Protect your dreams fiercely. Not everyone deserves access to your vision, and that does not make you selfish, it makes you wise. Allow yourself to fail, to rest, to begin again without shame, because growth is not linear and strength is born in resilience. Remember that trusting yourself does not mean you will never feel fear, it means fear will never control you. When you honor your worth, life will meet you with respect. When you believe in your power, opportunities will align, and when you refuse to abandon yourself, miracles will follow. Walk forward knowing this: you are not too much, you are more than enough, and the moment you choose to trust yourself, your life will begin to rise in ways you never imagined. And let me say this to every woman who still doubts herself in silence: you do not need to be fearless to move forward, you only need to be faithful to yourself. Trusting yourself means honoring your emotions without letting them cage you, it means listening to criticism without letting it define you, and it means understanding that your journey does not need to look like anyone else's to be worthy. Stop comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10, your timing is divine and your pace is sacred. Learn to sit with yourself, to know your patterns, your triggers, your strengths, because self-awareness is the foundation of self-trust. Speak to yourself with kindness, the way you would speak to a woman you love deeply, because your inner dialogue is shaping your future every single day. Invest in your growth even when no one is watching, even when applause is absent, because discipline will carry you when motivation fades. Surround yourself with people who celebrate your becoming, not those who benefit from your silence. And when the world tries to make you doubt your worth, remember this: you were born with it, it was never something to earn. Keep choosing yourself, keep trusting your instincts, keep walking even when the path feels uncertain, because the woman who believes in herself becomes a light for others, and in trusting yourself, you give permission for other women to rise too. This is my final truth, spoken from a heart that has walked through fire and emerged unafraid of its own flame. Trusting yourself is not a destination, it is a lifelong commitment, a promise you make to never abandon who you are becoming. There will be days when the world is loud and your mind is tired, but return to yourself, to that quiet knowing that has carried you this far. Remember that you are allowed to change, to outgrow places, people, and versions of yourself that no longer fit your spirit. Stand tall in your decisions even when they are misunderstood, because alignment will always matter more than approval. When fear whispers that you are not enough, let your actions answer louder than your doubts. Know this with certainty: a woman who trusts herself walks differently, loves differently, dreams differently, and lives differently, because her power is rooted from within. If you take anything from my story, let it be this: you already have everything you need inside you, waiting for your belief to unlock it. The moment you choose yourself, the moment you trust your voice, your instincts, and your worth, life will respond, doors will open, paths will clear, and miracles will begin to unfold.